All right, folks, so it is, yep, it's 12:30. Got quite a few people still not showed up yet. So we're gonna give it just a minute. See if we can get a few more in here. Nice. Real quick. There's a couple more. Okay, so what are we doing today? Well, I told you guys yesterday that mosey over here to this other table that I'm going to have you guys in on this build for the intermediate advanced class. So this is what we're doing today. I just moved the camera. All right. So we have these drawers, these basic little drawers. Okay, hold on, I got somebody else coming in. And we'll take a look. And they're just kind of basic little drawers, as you can kind of see by this one on the left over here. It's probably on your right. So what we're doing though is adding this decorative bead. Yeah, pretty much, Tate. I collect them for screws and nuts and bolts and things like that. Yeah, yeah, pretty much true. A ton of coffee cans in one way or another. So if we take a look at the plans, and we're going to take a look at the plans, if this little thing would ever go away. Okay, so this is what we're doing. We're adding this little decorative bead around the front of the drawers. And the way it's done, come on. Okay. So basically what we do is we cut a rabbet all the way around the circumference of the front of each drawer. This rabbet is 1/4 inch wide and 1/4 inch deep. And then into it, we place a little piece of bullnose molding. And I'll talk about bullnose here in a little bit. That is the same thickness as the width of the rabbet, but extends out just a little bit. So that's what we're in the process of doing. I have 3 of the drawers done. Did one last night, one during first, one during second, one during third. Well, that's what we're doing now. And actually, this thing is not doing what it's
I don't have SoundPad anymore. It's deleted from my library and my desktop.
What's that? All right, so that's what we're doing. All right, so come back over here to the table. All right, and I got more people coming in. All right, so basically here's what we do. I did a test cut. I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit so you can see, on a piece of material that I had as a test cut for a drawer part. And basically what it is, it's just a rabbet that's 1/4 inch wide and 1/4 inch deep that goes all the way around the drawer front. Then we can take these little pieces that we've made, cut a 45-degree angle on the end of it. All right, set them in there and work our way around it, okay? So the little rabbet's part of it. Another part of it is creating this trim. So there's a slight bullnose or round over that goes around this surface right here. And this is how we do that. So basically what I did this morning was I took a couple of pieces of oak, which is what this is made out of, this whole project, and cut it to about 36 inches long, and then proceeded to thickness it. And when you do a process like that in here, if you're trying to get something to a specific thickness that fits into something, okay, the best way to do it is to have the piece that you're trying to fit your material into sitting over at the planer and the drum sander. So as you're thicknessing it, you can constantly check to see if you've gotten to the right thickness. It's easier to do that than to try and measure and get the right thickness. Just fit it into what you want to fit it into. So basically I had these pieces that were about 5 inches wide, 36 inches long. I had 2 of them. Once I get them down to final thickness, okay, then we take what's called a bullnose bit, this little guy right here. Okay, and hopefully I can zoom in so you guys can see this a little better. All right, so this is called a bullnose bit. It's a router bit, okay, and it's got this little rounded portion right here, right, and it's got a flat surface there and a flat surface there. So basically what you do is when you set up this bit, if you're trying to just do a bullnose, you set it up so the height gets you centered in that, and that you're taking the right amount of material off, okay? So that's how we create that little bullnose profile, all right? So basically what you'll do is once you get everything set, you'll run this through the router table, you'll put a bullnose on this edge, then you'll flip it over, you put a bullnose on the other edge. I did the same thing to the second piece I had. Then you come over to the table saw, finch is set to rip at 3/8 of an inch wide, which is the length of this little piece of trim. You rip one edge off, then you flip it over, you rip the other edge off. Rip the 2 edges off your second piece, go back to the router table, put a bullnose on both edges, rip one off, flip it over, rip the other one off. Same thing, over and over till you get enough pieces. And generally when you do work like this, especially when you're doing work that involves miters, or these little 45-degree angles on the ends of it, okay, you want extra pieces. You always want to get extra pieces because you're bound to make mistakes when you're cutting these miters. It's not the easiest thing in the world. It takes a little bit of patience and attention. And the second reason I generally cut a lot of extra of this stuff is this is red oak, and oak has a real tendency to splinter, to tear out, for chunks to come out of it and stuff. So that's another problem. I've actually had to toss a couple of these little pieces as we're cutting the miters on them because little chunks will come off the face of them or something like that, and you can see them. One of the interesting aspects of these classes is that oftentimes students will choose a project in intermediate or advanced woods that is small. And their reasoning behind choosing a small project is that it's going to cost me less and it's a lot easier. Well, that's flawed reasoning because for the most part, 99% of the time, the smaller a project is, the more difficult it is. And the reason for that is that when you have a very small project, your tolerance for errors is reduced. In other words, the tiniest little mistake is going to be very visible on a small project. Imagine one of these little drawers like this, where there's a tiny little gap where these 2 miters come together. So what you've got is, it's like, imagine a picture frame. So you've got these little miters that come together like this. If there's a tiny little gap on one of these drawer fronts, you're going to see it. They're very small. You're going to see it. So a 32nd of an inch, pardon me, even a 64th of an inch in a small project is visible. Okay. Now imagine this same situation on a king size bed frame. You're not going to notice a tiny little error in a king size bed frame unless you're really looking at it close. So in general, the smaller a project, the more complex it is, the harder it is, the more difficult it is, not to mention the fact that you're working with very small parts. on some of these machines, and that can get a little bit sketchy as well. Okay, so we're going to go through a little process of doing one of these drawer fronts, and we're going to start at the dado saw by putting a rabbet all the way around this top. So let me get this over to the dado saw. Okay, now I'm going to have to turn that heat off for a second. It's pretty loud up there. So this is an interesting situation here at the dado saw. This particular series of cuts is odd. So I'm going to have to do it sitting like this, okay? And that causes a serious problem because I can't do this cut using the fence because I have a short edge against the fence. This is perfectly fine. I've got the long edge against the fence. This is not good. I have a short edge against the fence. So I'm going to make that cut. I have to use a miter gauge. Now, normally when we use a miter gauge for the fence, we take a piece of scrap material and we clamp it to the fence so that I can slide my part up to it, make my cut so that my part is not against the miter gauge and the fence at the same time it's being cut. Exactly cause a problem. But in this situation, I can't do that, okay? Because I'm going to have to make cuts like this and cuts like this, which means I would have to move the fence for that cut and that cut. So this is one of those situations that occur in here on a regular basis where we have a very strict set of rules that we follow in regards to how we run our machines. But as usual in the woodshop here, there are exceptions to just about every rule. So I'm going to make this cut in such a way that I teach my students not to make this type of cut. The reason I'm going to do it is there's several different reasons. Number one, I'm comfortable being able to make this cut safely. Okay, I don't have a lot of options. It's not a student making the cut, and the rate at which I feed my material through the cutter, the way in which I support the material, makes me very, very comfortable with this being a safe operation. So let's just go ahead and do it. Okay. What a stack data says there's a cut 4 inch wide. The blade height is cut 4 inch deep. Got a couple inches thick. And I'm going to keep very close. You get rid of it. I get the miter gauge out there. Come on the ball again. Nice and slow, not a race. All right, so there's my rabbit. Have a little gap there, it looks like. Okay, let me bring this back over. You could use wood putty. I like to avoid that at all costs whenever possible, because most of the time you can see it. I'd prefer that my work is done in such a way that I don't produce visible gaps. That's the idea. That'd be nice. But there's some of these drawers that no matter what you do, there's going to be tiny little gaps. And what I'll usually do in a situation like that is a little bit of sawdust from this wood and mix with a little bit of glue and patch it down in there. So thank you for the question though. So this is basically what we have now. We've got these rabbets that go all the way around the circumference of this board, okay? So now what we need to do is create the miters on the trim. And here's kind of how you do that, okay? So I have all these sticks, right, that I have to work with. And I kind of try and pick decent ones. There's a couple of them that have wormholes in them that I don't want to use. So I got a nice one here. So here's what I'm going to do. So I have this one little piece that I've been using throughout this whole process of putting these on the front of the drawer fronts. It's got one of the angles at each end, okay? And that's a real necessary little tool when doing this. So basically what I'm going to do is the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a single miter on one of them, okay? And we have a miter sled that we use for this stuff on the table saw. And well, you guys should be able to see that. Let me know if you can't see that or if you want to see it closer. I'll zoom in a little bit. So it's preset at 45 degrees. Okay. Make sure I've got a good piece. So I have my starting piece, and we generally always start with a long piece. In other words, I've got two short guys here. I've got two long ones. I want to start with a long one. Here's why. If I jack this up, if I screw up and I cut this first piece too short, okay? And if I'm cutting it for this and I cut it too short, that's in the trash. If I make a mistake on this long one and cut it a little too short, I can use the material for these two short guys, for the little ones, okay? So what I'm going to do is somehow I have to be able to tell if I've got this miter in the exact right spot so I can mark the other cut line. So that's why I have this other little piece. I can take this guy and slide it up, and I can tell when I've got this one sitting at just the right spot, just a hair more. All right, so there's my placement. All right, so I'm going to hold this in place. Try not to screw it up. And I've got one of my pencils here, at least I thought I did. It's got a little piece of sandpaper on this side of this, and you can roll your pencil and slide it along it and get a very, very sharp edge. I'm going to double check that, make sure I didn't move it. Good. Now all I have to do is come over here and mark the inside of this miter. Have a little mark right there. Come back over. It's a very tedious, time-consuming process, but the more time you take doing it, the better the results. So really all I'm doing is I'm lining my pencil mark that I just made up with this saw curve on this angle. And this happens sometimes as well. Let's take a chunk off the top. That's not too bad. Looks like I'm going to need to take a little more off. So the trick here is to sneak up on your cut. There's the chance that you're going to set up for that second cut and nail it perfectly your very first try are incredibly slim. So what you do is cut just outside your line a little bit. Come back and check it. Now I have a better idea of how much I need to take off. And it may take 3 or 4 shots, but here's what I like to do. This is what's known as an alternate top bevel blade on this table saw. And what that means is every other tooth is pointing up in the opposite direction. In other words, one tooth points up into the left, another tooth points up into the right. So what I like to do is I like to find one that's pointing to the left when I'm working on this side, or pointing to the right when I'm working on this side. And I'll come up here and I'm just going to kiss the side of that tooth with my board, with my material. Now I can slide it off. Now I have control over how much I move it into the blade. I've got a lot more control over how much I take off. Come back over. Get my little test piece. Make sure I'm sitting where I want to be. And I think I'm going to have to take a little bit more off. Oh, that's close. It's close. Actually, that's going to do it just fine. Okay, so I've got this piece where I want it. I'm going to take a little tape. This is actually binding tape for guitar bindings. It's great stuff for this kind of thing. It'll also be used to clamp it in place when I put glue on it, because there's really no way to effectively clamp this part in there while the glue dries. And that's the only thing that's going to hold this while the glue dries, is that tape. I'm not going to shoot. We have some really, really fine little finish nails with headless pin nails that we could shoot in there, and you'd hardly even see the hole. But the danger is being able to shoot it in there where it's not going to come flying out the front of the drawer or the back side of this. It's just not worth it. This glue will hold just fine. So now we start working our way around it. So we're going to take our next piece. Okay. So now what I need is I need a miter this way at this end. I come over here, set her up. Okay. Man, this blade is really in need of a sharpening. It's just not doing amazingly well. These little fuzzies all over it, it shouldn't. Okay, so I just take it, set it right up against my last cut. Take my uber sharp pencil, make my mark, got my little mark there. Back, set that mark near the kerf, this gap that the blade created. I don't want to try and nail it the first time. I have room to get it right. That's good. So I need about a 32nd of an inch off of it, looks like. I have tape measures for eyes. So I'm going to do the little blade kiss thing. I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to slide the end of this piece up to the tooth. Now I have a lot better control over how much I take off. That might be good. Maybe not quite. I'd rather come back to it. Just get it dead on. I can already tell that's not going to be quite enough. Take my little test piece. Yeah, that's not going to be enough. Definitely need some more. Okay. Yeah, you can do that going back and forth quite a few times if it's just right. But it's better than screwing it up the first time by taking too much off. Kiss the side of that blade. Now I have control over how far I go. There we go, that might do it. I don't know if that was going to be enough. A little frustrating sometimes, but it's good. Well, I'm gonna take another shot. Yeah, so it's really difficult for students with doing something like this, because there's 25 people in here or something like that. People need the table saw. You have a limited amount of time during class period. And you tend to rush things. And that's a really bad way to do it when it comes to something like this. You don't want to be rushed. So it really does take some patience for a student to do this, and some effort and some planning. There we go, we've got it. Okay, so we take this one off. Not going to use too much tape right now because we'll pull this off and get fresh tape on there for the gluing process. Actually, I'm going to use one more there. Okay. All right, so we work our way around. Here's our piece. I've got to change the angle on that. I'm left-handed, so it's kind of weird when I do it on this side. And line her up. Yeah, that's a nice fit right there. That is absolutely perfect. Fantastic. That makes me happy. There's our mark. So don't screw this cut up, Brandon, because that's a really nice fit at the other end. On it, come up short. Got here. Good, that's what I want to do. I'm guessing I'll get this on about the third or fourth cut. I'm going to do the old kiss the side of the blade thing. Slide it up about a 6. See what we got. This is the hardest one because, well, all I really need to do is cut a shorter one of these so I can check it here. But I can see where it's going to go. And I don't quite have it yet. I've got a little lip right there. Do it again. Keep on keeping on. All right, come on. Slide up there. See if I can get it. That's probably going to do it right there. I got a funny feeling. Fly in my chair. Get off. There's my chair. That's got it right there. Perfect. Get held in place there. Hopefully I can get this last one. Okay, now we just need a little one. Put this guy right here. This is the hardest one because it's more difficult to mark it. So let's get it go again. Right up where we need it. I'm going to try and mark as close as I can. I want it. Let's see what happens. Can't see it. It's because I'm old and my eyes are going bad. This is going to take a few tries. The last one, this little guy, is the hardest one. Well, I'm close already. Well, I don't want to have to redo a little one, so I try to take my time here. And we're almost there. There's a couple people. I think AJ was already in here. That must have got kicked out. Tate was already in here. Okay. Try to spit. And there we go. We've got it. Here's my, well, no, actually, I need to take one here. Sorry about that. We need to go outside. It happens. And I mean, it is just the tiniest bit. So there's a good chance I'm going to mess this up. I don't think I did. I got it. Damn it. There we go. We're ready to rock. So now we're going to get this thing glued on. It's pretty straightforward. I want to keep these in the same positions they're in now. In other words, I don't want to switch them around from where I have them. So try and keep them in the same order. So this is another one of those situations where cleaning up glue that squeeze out is a royal pain. You don't want any if you can avoid it. So what I've done is taken one of our little glue brushes and trimmed the end of it to make it a little more functional for this. So we take a little bit of glue, put on a piece of scrap wood. Doesn't take much. That's probably 5 times more glue than I need, as you can tell by the previous little. And we're just going to try to get some glue on here as nicely as we can without making a huge mess. This is quality television right here, folks. I'm telling you what. There's people that would pay nothing to see this. All right. This is woodworking. I mean, this is kind of the process. This is what you do. There's a lot of things you do that take time. One of the things I like about it, I guess, that really drew me to woodworking is it's kind of a solitary venture. It's generally, not always, but generally not so much a team effort as it is a personal effort. So the results of your efforts are yours. You know what I mean? It's not due to somebody else. You know, whatever you produce, however it turns out, it's on you. So if I make this cabinet and I completely jack it up, mess it up, that's on me. Right? So I'm going to use my little test piece here to get this first one lined up where I want. Make sure it's dead where I want it. There we go. And we'll get some fresh tape on it. It's just some gnarly tape that really holds. I've got some squeeze out there. Push it down to half a little bit. A little wet rag. Clean it up before I tape it. Hands all wet now.
gooey tape. Perfect for gluing all your guitar bindings. And that's what it's for. This is similar to a guitar binding, so I guess it's just fine. The end piece. So the reason we can do this with just glue and nothing else, and glue it in a rabbet, in a miter, is this is not a structural thing, it's decorative. And generally, as long as there's not a lot of stress on it, this is more than enough to hold it. Well, maybe not in a high school shop, which is where this is going to sit. But you know, where it goes. Not much survives a high school shop, to be honest with you. I've always said that if a tool manufacturer ever really wanted to test their tools for durability before they put them out in the market, they should stick them in a high school shop for a week. We'll squeeze out and push it down. Get that out of there. Get some taste. This one's fitting very nicely. I know I'm standing in the way half the time. That is really hard to get out of there once it's mounted and dried. So. Okay, get this long one in. We're going to make it. Yeah, this wouldn't have worked if that brush hadn't been trimmed down. This would have been a holy mess. Should have some music on or something, huh? Be nice. Talk radio. Some rap. All right, no more, no more. It's hard when you're here alone and doesn't seem like there's anybody with you, which there's basically not. I mean, you guys don't say anything, as you would, but go a little bit stir crazy. Anybody to talk to all day or yell at, anything like that, you know. More on there. This wood is so dry, it's sucking this moisture out of this glue so fast. There's my top piece. Yeah, it's fast. All right, we're almost there, folks. I had something more to say, I would. I can't think of what to say. But keep moving along. Come on, dude. Getting better at this. This is my fourth drawer. So I'm getting a little faster with the tape and everything. One more piece and we're done. We're gonna make it. Yay. Because I want to do the last drawer, fourth period. That way tomorrow we can start thinking about the timbre door. Like that. That's going to be a process. We've got to build a jig first. Got to get all the pieces, all the timbre slabs. They require 40 of them, but like I said before, I'll make extras. I'll probably have between 50 and 60 slats. Because oak tends to tear out so bad when you route it. I want to have the extra pieces if I need them. A little squeeze out. There we go. All right. Here we go. Last one. Man, this one really turned out nice. I don't know why this one's so special. There it is. Okay, so now that you guys are completely and totally, what's that? Glue and wood is like home ground wheat and anything liquid. I don't know, honestly, I'm guessing you're saying that's pretty pasty stuff. Yeah, flour and water, I guess. All right, guys, so that's it. Please make sure your name's in the chat window for attendance. Thank you for being here. Take care of yourself tonight, and I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. All right, bye, folks.